This episode of Warchant is sponsored by McMahon Cove Gilly. You can find them on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok.
When you go through what we went through in 2002 as a team, the loss of best friends,
2001,
from 2000, 2001, and 2002, the loss of three players and Doris. It just
galvanizes.
It brings you together in a sense where everybody's so close because you lose. Me personally, I lost my best friend. Me and Drew was as tight as. I lost my best friend, and then that's the way. But you look at it as a team perspective. I can remember the day, the practice, how hard it was. We had a bad day, and Rose was really, really on us.
He put us through
at
the line, right? We had to run.
Yeah, the day we drew the day.
Yeah, we had to run.
And we really went, and that's not just taking a toll on it. We didn't. And I can remember him in the parking lot after practice throwing sticks at people and still goofing off and just having a good time, But the way the media at the time, you remember, we had to do that press conference and everything.
I know all about it.
And
the way
that the media, took it and said, "Hey,
I was supposed to talk, and I just wasn't going to be."
It wasn't. The way they portrayed it was like, hey, we're
Odawa was the one. Let's put them out. They ain't watching it. Odawa. For some reason, I don't know why they interviewed your coach, but your coach called us out, and then we prayed to God we could have played y'all in some sort of game. So
it was not
annihilated you. But either way, that's been 20 years ago.
And Calvin has left, but Calvin was
on the interview.
Of course, who else would you pick to speak other than Jonathan Calvin? Because he was probably one of the smartest guys I know, but. He carried, and it was just it was hard. It's hard to fathom losing a teammate to like that, and and then your best friend like that. But the toll it took on Rose, because like I said, the practice that we had,
Rose,
the day that Drew got sick was one of the worst practices I can remember ever going through.
Yeah,
we done 100-yard fit and drives for probably an hour. It was just brutal. And, and I can't imagine what that had on him because in his mind, I guarantee he was thinking.
He wanted to leave. I remember him wanting to leave and then us sort of
he was
getting together collectively and saying,
hey, this ain't got nothing to do with you. This ain't
the
things that happen is out of your control. Yeah. Even with Nick, we're summer workouts, going into our senior year. And that. This is hard to bring up, and I know a lot of people that watch this is going, but it's hard. It really is. It's hard to bring up because when it happened, I remember I did not make the morning workout that day.
I did.
I did.
I didn't make the morning workout.
I
come to the second workout. I come to 7 o'clock.
I was at 7 o'clock, but I remember
walking in the field house and
sitting there,
and the coaches had him. In
Houston,
and it was tough, and if you realized how hard our summer workouts was, Rose took a beating over this. Media was on him hard about how hard you practice your kids,
and it wasn't fair.
It had nothing to do with it. It wasn't fair to us, and but it brought us together as a team. Everybody was really losing a tragedy like that. Sometimes brings you.
And that's what I was saying earlier, off camera when in any of these episodes where there's like a comparison of teams like through the years, I honestly don't. I know 90. I was growing up with the 96 team, so we give each other shit. I know with especially me and you, and me and you somewhat, but me and Jeff definitely through text. I know the 96 team. It was because I know I shouldn't say it to you because how good you were. But but I know. It's a hypothetical thing, but either way, they'd mop the floor with the team I played on. It just would. It would player to player kind of thing.
It's adjustable.
But as far as if we're talking about what you're going to do, what we could do, like on a Friday night, we had an unfair advantage for 2 years we had an unfair advantage because we had like a separate set of motivation that other teams didn't have.
Right.
Where
playing for something bigger.
I'd gladly go back and fucking go 8-2.
That's tough.
Or 5-5. Or 0-10. If any of that, if we didn't have that motivation. But that's what happened. We had Roy Rayburn when I was sophomore year, and we had Drew, we had Nick, and then Doris died, and went through this whole deal. And I swear to God, like that team, those were dudes at that point because we're kids. You had no way of. We didn't know how to properly like compartmentalize all of that shit.
I can remember at the first time, and this is a big deal for a man, and everybody knows when you tell another guy, one of your friends, your best friends, hey man, I love you, and you mean it. And I can remember being at funerals and just hugging my best friends, man. Look, dude, man, I love you. You know, and that meant something. You know, and I can remember not telling. I thought, man, telling another dude you love him, man, that's weird. After that, it didn't become weird no more.
Those are dudes like,
hey man, I love you, dude. You ain't me.
I go in a foxhole.
Yeah,
I go in a foxhole with all those dudes.
But you know what we were talking about, Robert, off camera just before this, and you were saying, and you just kind of alluded to it again, like y'all versus 96 in a head-to-head. I understand exactly what you're saying, right? And I don't disagree with what you're saying. When you start ranking those great teams or whatever, I start looking really heavy at, you know, the body of work's important, right? Just knowing the athletes that were there and what they did and all that stuff is super important, right? But there's just certain intangible things about teams that kind of push a team beyond another team. It's not necessarily anything to do that the team could have done to control it, right?
Right.
You would have never chosen what you guys
Hell no.
But I don't know.
Absolutely
I don't know if you guys could even truly understand. I mean, I feel like I understand it to some degree as an onlooker, and somebody played at North Jackson. It's a little bit different area and all that stuff. But how much inspiration there was in what y'all did. Like to me, I don't know that I've ever seen a football game where I have been more impressed, heartbroken, elated, so invested in what a team was doing in the state championship game against UMS Wright, knowing at that time, right? So it's a little different era, right? We didn't have to play against the private schools and all that crap. We've watched it locally here at for instance, Madison Academy, right? So when a private school starts, you ain't really got any advantage over a county team and all that kind of stuff. But when you're in a booming metropolis, when you're in freaking Mobile, when you're in Montgomery, and you're in Birmingham or whatever, and your recruiting starts to catch up, you start getting them young kids that come, hey, there's a kid over there that's in the 7th grade that's really good, and we got time to pull him in here and be a really big impact, right? And you look at the talent that was on that field. I've never seen a freaking David versus Goliath. And David just say, I don't care how big you are. I don't care what's going on. I'm going to break your will tonight. I've never seen a North Jackson football team do it the way that team did. And the most heartbreaking thing I've ever seen in North Jackson football in all my life, the most injustice thing that I've ever seen in my life is Darrell Jackson putting the football on the ground.
Never fumble.
Never fumble, man. If there's anybody you can pick to go back and say, 100%. If I could change one play for any guy in the history of North Jackson football, it's that guy. He did not. No, because if that don't happen, you just took a freaking team that is full of Division I talent and made them quit and made them post a 0.
Yeah.
If it ain't for that one freaking, they just hit the lottery on one play is the only way they won the freaking football game.
Even the touchdown
but I'm so
even the touchdown pass he scored on, the
bug
catch
is all
was
over
just
him. Bugs all over him.
Yeah, but you know, Bugs just laying on the guy.
I'm such a football purist from my dad.
But the catch shouldn't have never freaking happened because they had quit. We were marching the football for the first time. And it was fixing to be 10-0,
It was
and the
stopping
ball
on
game.
4th down.
They ran
over.
3
That's
trick
where we were
plays.
going.
We had 14 game film
God!
up to that.
Still
They
makes
never
me
run
mad.
a single trick play. But I'll say this, and it pains me to say it, but from Russell Lee, he's not here, who raised me up on all kinds of damn Super Bowl videos that I watched and big hits and king size blocks and all the VHS tapes that I had. If it was your day, it would have been your day.
Yeah.
That's the way I always look at it.
Sure.
You know what I
That's
mean?
right.
And we weren't supposed to. We didn't win, so we weren't supposed to win. It's
Yeah.
kind of way.
Hey,
I look at it, you know what I mean?
That's all you can say.
And it hurts me to say that.
Yeah.
And it hurt me so bad when the game ended to take my shit off in the locker room afterwards. And it hurt me to watch Blake come out during the, to bring the players out. That's
terrible.
funny. And to know this is this guy I played with for 13 years at this point, and this is it, and he ain't playing in the game with me. And it's a North Jackson thing, but it also is a Bridgeport thing for me and this guy. So that, it hurt, but it ended the way it ended.
Yeah.
And that was that,
Yeah.
that's a why. Hey,
Well, we've
Terry
said
Curtis has got how many state championships now?
Yeah,
7,
right.
8.
Well,
Got a bunch of them.
Well,
Yeah.
Rose used to tell us when he'd show the highlight film like the next year or whatever, and when we stopped them down there, and we got the ball back, and we was pretty much like, hey, we're fixing to do it. It's panned to Terry Curtis, and you could just see the
No,
life.
I mean, I
life
agree.
sucked out of
Hell,
him.
I was
Yeah.
on the field. I mean, I saw it, but
Yeah.
I mean,
Right. And of course, there's all kind of arguments you make about
no, I mean, what are you going to do?
body of work. I mean,
Yeah.
you guys had no choice because of the way the areas and the regions are set up to have to play more cupcakes in the regular
We did.
season.
And I'm not
No,
going to argue.
see, I will
stuff
not.
like
I
that.
will
We played a lot of teams.
We've
that were
talked.
terrible.
Yeah,
We've done a lot of
absolutely.
shit talk,
Yeah.
like I said. With,
We did.
with,
We
especially
didn't have to
with
get up
Jeff.
every week.
But we
Right.
don't
Really.
have like
Tell you
Jeff
what,
and
y'all
them.
also
You
got
guys
the States
played.
off a pretty big Coleman team.
Yeah.
You
No, I will
Russell
say that.
did. Went to the third round in 5A and was loaded.
Yeah,
They
I
were
will
good.
say that. I will say that, and that's another one of them.
But I think,
sort of
I think
shell-shock
like
games.
that 96 team and that eligibility snafu, and that's the part that's like hard to, when you look at the sum total of everything, that's the part that's kind of hard to swallow as a county football guy and all that kind of stuff. You're like, man, so what? We had a guy that moves in here
One
and
guy.
contribute.
One
One freaking
guy.
guy. And
Yeah,
then
we
we
need
get
to
a
find
freaking
him.
state championship taken away from us by what you know is a Mobile All-Star team that's been built for years and years. How in the world? I mean, people that I adore go to Madison Academy. I live in the Huntsville area. I've just about got in fist fights with men before
hey.
for arguing with me about it ain't the same.
It's not.
I know
No,
that
that's
when
what I
it
said.
starts, it ain't the same. But when you got Bob Jones, when you got freaking Sparkman,
When you're
when you got
cherry-picking
Huntsville
your
High,
kids.
when you got Grissom, you
James
got all
Clemens.
these kids,
Yeah.
James
Yeah.
Clemens, Columbia, wherever, you got all them kids right there, and all you got to do is say, I got a scholarship for you. And when you're old enough to drive, all you got to do is drive across town. Mom and Daddy don't have to move. They don't have to
pay.
change jobs.
What do we-
They don't have to come to a place that's somewhere else in order to bring your whole family. All you got to do is just move across town. We'll give you a fine Christian education. We'll pay for it, and you just play the best football.
What are you
can.
saying?
That
Though?
it just ain't the same.
What you're
I mean,
saying though in here though, especially like I said, and anybody who's in here before Calvin left, everybody in here to me is North Jackson, and Robert Lee ain't getting his name in the paper. It shit didn't happen,
Not me neither.
and I knew it wasn't gonna happen. But what I will say, and I'll back it for that, I'll go to bat for myself on that. Was a grinder. Coop now was legit. I'll say it for him. He ain't gonna say it because he thinks he's a grinder, but he wasn't. He was legit. But what North Jackson is a group of grinders. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Where you play all these other teams, they may have 4 or 5 studs. We ain't got. They ain't got no grinders. And they definitely ain't got 11 grinders on one side of the ball and 11 on the other side of the ball.
We had some grinders.
we
in the
do.
drive.
Yeah.
We've had multiple
Well,
eras of grinders too.
You can't spell grinder without grinder.
But that's exactly. But that is what it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I didn't give a shit about it.
We've
I never
said
had
for
any
years,
illusions of that. There
Since
was,
we started doing the radio, we've talked several times about how awesome would it be to do the radio on one of those runs.
one of these
Yeah.
teams we've
Yeah.
had that went the distance and went toe to toe to call the pro throw game when we beat them, to call that on the radio, to be going down there and setting up for a state championship game. Me and Sykes had the worst luck of any radio announcers in the country when it comes to when we
started
versus where our school
You
was
listen.
at.
You go on that night. Go on YouTube and watch the '93 game, and listen to because
Right.
it's on and just the excitement, how and just not he going to take it to the house. Whoever the hell that guy before he ever left, thank God. But how good it was, just the way they felt about the
That's
calling
what
the
I was
game,
saying
man,
earlier about the
just
South Pittsburgh game.
excitement.
I hate to say it, like to reduce it down to that one game, and I'm guilty myself. Now I've been on nights for God like a decade from playing music, and there ain't no other way to do it but other on nights, and to just working at lodge and being on nights. There's a lot of games that I wish I could have been there and I wasn't there. But anytime I could make it, I made it. But being at that game, I told my wife at
It
that
really
game.
was.
I
It
told
was
my
different.
wife at that game, regardless, and I told her before the game got going, regardless how this game ends, this is what these kids deserve. Because this is what I know I had, like me and Blake had. I don't give a shit. We playing Douglas. It was 0-6 versus 6-0. It'd be packed. I don't care. If it was a monsoon, it would be packed.
Yeah, we had.
And
Well,
there was
that goes
especially
back-
kids on this team.
That goes back to the community.
It
Friday
does.
nights used to be North
does.
Jackson football.
Yeah. Not
And Chad, a while ago, listening to Chad talk about y'all season, made it sound like it was his season.
Yeah.
That, to me, epitomizes North Jackson football and the players that what we need more of and what we need to be more involved.
and just like you said, Friday night used to be North Jackson.
That's all you did.
We're not going to Chattanooga
Yeah.
or Huntsville or nothing. We're going to watch North Jackson play.
And
It's
then,
never going to be like it was.
So where will your
until the
kids be?
players
Your
and
kids
the
will be there
community
too.
behind it. People can say, people can criticize Joe Hollis, Chandler Tygard, Mark Rose, whoever they want to about, well, this is the way it's been the last few years. Well, you have no right to complain unless you're coming down there.
You ain't there on
trying
Friday
to
night.
Support and
I'm guilty.
show these kids.
I am guilty.
I'm
I'm
right
calling
there.
you out.
I'm guilty of it.
we've done second round playoff games. We didn't have a crowd.
Yeah,
Second round.
Yeah.
people have to.
Like, what do you need?
Like,
What do you,
Big deal, right?
What do
Here's
you
the
need?
thing is it's fixing to start hitting home, and I've talked about this before, probably off camera more. It's fixing to start meaning a little bit more to me because I've got kids that I've coached that I know. I've got a kid, I've got a nephew that's fixing to coming up through the program, and I don't want to see them playing there, and just the parents are in the stadium.
I would never wish that on any of them.
No,
Well, I don't see how there's
but
a
that
lot.
don't change by us talking. I want to. I think we're doing the right things by talking about this, but it ain't going to change until the community gets behind it. I don't care if Nick Saban's the head coach down there or Joe Hollis. You got to have support, and until the community gets behind it, we are what we are.
It's 3 hours out of your Friday.
Yeah.
At home games, 5 Fridays out of the damn year until you get into play.
Well, one thing's killing the attendance is us doing the radio. So many people are like, God
They
damn,
just love
if
that.
I go to the game, I can't
stay
hear
at
them.
home. It's got it.
I've
But
been-
no, like going back to the '96 team, because we've joked about it and everything. But as a kid, I hate to admit it, but that was a damn
Dude,
man.
You remember being in school?
Hell yeah.
Friday,
gone back.
You're selling tickets. Did your mom and dad give you money to buy tickets to the game?
I remember getting
That's
tickets
school.
at elementary
I mean,
school.
elementary school. Hey,
But
they
that,
got
going back
you
to
got
that,
tickets.
Everybody had a
Right.
Battle in the Valley t-shirt.
Oh, yeah.
Battle in the
right.
shirt.
Well, I told
Damn
Stafford
right.
and Gerard that I mimicked the shift that they did. I used to mimic that in the yard every day. It was surreal to me to tell Stafford and Gerard that.
Yeah,
We would do
Because
that.
I
That's
would
what
have
I'm saying.
never.
Like Chad,
You
Chad's
line
here,
up,
like,
you would do the
growing
same.
up, watching those teams.
I can remember seeing your name in the paper when I was
And I know Chad's
On-
like
on
big on
Saturdays.
the Bridgeport guys. Like he's huge Dover, Greg Witcher. Those are heroes. But anyway, like grew up watching those guys first, and there's like not as vivid as it gets on, but I remember those guys. And like I said earlier, it may sound corny to people, and some people may laugh at it, but that was the same as watching an Alabama football game to me.
Oh,
That's what it meant to me. Like I said in the
I
stands,
idolized North Jackson players.
but
to the point where I
to
thought they
know-
were grown men.
I did, yeah.
Going down the first
that's
time
what I
ever
mean.
went to watch North
But to
Jackson
know,
practice,
like one day I'm
Coach
going to
Long
put
had that
hat
orange
on.
step side truck. Remember
Yeah.
that orange truck
Oh,
he
yeah.
had?
Yeah.
I remember watching them practice and coming to the sidelines and dipping water out of them garbage cans and stuff, and I was like, shit, I ain't never been play here.
Thought they were just
My
These
first
dudes
Yeah.
ever
big
pickup
old
line,
These are
man,
grown
It might
men.
as well have been Ed Shizzle.
Right.
Now think of this.
Dan was
I
the
went
man.
from Dan Cobb to Derek Thomas. Two very similar individuals.
Absolutely.
100%.
They were in my eyes. Dan Cobb was like he was the greatest thing ever.
I said, hey,
First
no
year.
shit. David Power and Sylvanus Pullum might as well have been the same person
I wore
for
them
years
too.
to me.
Yeah.
That's what I mean, for years to me.
Yeah, Sylvanus was a dog.
Yeah, he really was.
100%. He was the guy. Like, he was the guy. Like, that's who when we were in the end zone, like, acting like a bunch of assholes while y'all were trying to play us, who we were.
I remember this is.
That's me, Sylvanus.
We're going to
Had the name.
say who it was, but
That was the name.
we're playing Stevenson, 9-10-year-old, when we didn't give up any points. We won Harvest Bowl. We was really good, but
We were okay.
yeah,
That's
we,
James. Hey,
we only give up 12
hey,
points in that game,
hey.
but still.
James Russell Lake, undefeated.
So we're
as a
playing
head football
Stevenson,
coach.
right? And I remember this was Stevenson and Bridgeport Little League. I can remember, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever, that Diedrich was on the sideline with the
They
9 and 10-year-old
They
team.
did.
And I remember that as a 10-year-old kid.
I did.
I made
know.
a tackle. Darrell Jackson comes down the sideline, and I make a tackle from safety.
Smoked him.
And he gets up, and he's hitting me on the helmet. And I'm like,
There's DD.
wow, that was the coolest thing. And that's what I remember from that game.
Well, you remember
That's all
Lolly
I
and
remember from
Schrader?
that game.
Lolly and Schrader and all of them used to come to the Bridgeport Middle School.
Middle
They
school
did.
stand on the
They
fence
did.
line.
They
Stand
did.
out there.
Yeah,
they did.
That was like a tryout.
They
Yeah.
did. They the last game we played, Stevenson Bridgeport game before going to North Jackson. The biggest
In the end
takeaway
zone.
from that win, number one, this gentleman right here threw me a touchdown pass. But I also had a pick in that game.
You
But
did have an interception.
but what happened at the end of the game, and I'll never forget this, was my dad told me, "Hey, I was up against the fence when you picked that ball off. Lolly was there, and he said, "Hey, who was that number 25 just picked that ball off?" And I got to look at him and say, "That was my boy." And he said, "That's your boy. Your boy was 5 foot tall last year." He said, "He had to go spurt."
big mace.
Hey, he's pretty damn scrappy now. And I remember him telling me that, thinking, yes. And then, of course, we went to, I got ninth grade, and he left and went to Auburn, and it was a total shit show, and we won't get into that. But I digress. It was good for that little minuscule point that Lolly said that. And I
You
appreciate
can remember
it.
that, though, when you played the middle school game.
Hell
In
yes.
Bridgeport, on the side of the hill, right there on the home side, down the fence row, they'd stand on that fence line.
Yes.
All the coaches. And then at Stevenson, they'd stand in the end zone
Tell you
on that
something.
fence line.
Tell you
But
something
you remember
sad.
stuff like that.
Neither one of those fields are even played on anymore.
I know.
You know,
That's
that's
what
sad.
that's which
They're
you
not-
know,
Nobody
that-
There's a
that
lot
ain't
of great
their fault.
players.
and I'm
That
not
ain't-
against that,
they're
guys.
not- that ain't their
I
fault.
like the
Now, I
fact.
grew up in
But-
Bridgeport and played in Bridgeport, but
I get it. I
something
get
about
it.
that Stevenson field is just, I don't know, it's got so much more history.
I get
Like to
it.
me, I remember more Little League games at Stevenson's field than I do Bridgeport.
I'll
some
give you a
reason.
quick story
Like-
about Bridgeport's field though before we launch this thing into 5 episodes. And Josh Harden, who was supposed to be here with us but he couldn't be here, is the one that told me this story, and I thought it was great. And I'll tell it now because one of the main person involved, we can't really get at him. God rest his soul. Jeremy Crow was our head coach when I was at Bridgeport. And y'all were at Bridgeport, so your head coach as well. But Josh Harden, our 9th grade year, Josh Harden was talking to me about playing at Bridgeport, 7th and 8th grade. And if y'all remember, I'm pretty sure it was probably the same for y'all. They had the hose that reached out to a certain point, so only half the field got watered. Now, I don't know if y'all did this, but no, we did it. But everybody got into Jerry's Peachy or Levi Garrett when we played in 7th and 8th grade. So there is literally my 7th grade year we had 17 players. Our 8th grade year we had 18 players. All 17 and 18. I don't give a shit who you are. If you're watching this, you did it. So don't say you didn't. We're all chewing tobacco at practice. So at a certain point during practice, we're throwing it out on the field. Harden was talking to me one time about playing at Bridgeport. And he was saying, man, I hated playing there both years because once you got on that one side of the field, it was just dead grass and dust. And he said, I don't know what, Coach D and Joe John are doing, but my God, I've never seen any two people that chew that much tobacco. He said, there's tobacco everywhere.
It's everywhere.
And I said, nah, dude. That wasn't the coaches. That was the team for those 3 years. Just throwing tobacco in the field 4 days a week. Right.
We was getting that tobacco when we
was getting that Levi Garrett.
If you would you?
Can I scold you? Can I scold you?
Could y'all run down to, hey, boys, if you could, this is Jerry's, God rest his soul. If you could run down could you run down the field house and get my Peachy for me? Bring me a bag up, please. And then he'd pull his leg up like this. Like
check
this, like this so much.
And check his watch.
Because he had his watch on his ankle.
Pull that sock down.
Guys, let's be gentlemanly. He'd also say that. Let's be gentlemanly.
Let's be gentlemanly.
People can say what they want to, but man, they love Bridgeport.
He did.
He did.
He did love Bridgeport.
That was a big loss in the community.
I just him and Joe John. Sometimes I think, man, if we'd have just went to the wing tee, we'd have had a leg up. But
we didn't know.
It is what it is.
We didn't know leg up. Hell,
as a coach,
I broke Servanis's record
for
receptions, and you know how big Lolly was on throwing the ball, so that was a big deal when I did that.
That's long gone though now, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it got annihilated in about 4 games.
Yeah, I dropped out of the top 10 in 2 years for receptions.
I think my career stats this is awesome. Really, I was 17 for 25 with 2 touchdowns and 1 interception in 7 games.
I think they done away with the website.
Did they?
The website. I think it's gone now.
Yeah, it's
the
gone.
website gone.
They used to have all the game summaries and all that on there. It's gone.
It's probably on
There's a lot of information.
high school association thing. No, I don't know about the stats.
NJHSG.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
They used to have all my games.
They did.
I don't know what all.
They did.
There's quite a few.